Yeah, it reminded me so yeah, like I said before, we got to check it out and it reminded me of, or at least the treatment, like the artwork and like you were saying the ads. It reminds me of the EC comics back in the day. So by back in the day, I mean like 1950s Tales from the Crypt, or you know what the film The Creep Show was based off of, those type of books from way back in the day. Was that the type of vibe you wanted to go with Darla, or this kind of was like a happy accident type of thing?
It was kind of an accident, although I think that's what I responded to inadvertently in Brianna's work, in Bree
Mm.
Tippett's work, was, oh, there's something kind of like gruesome and jagged and wicked about it. And I think when I look back at like, oh, like amazing tales and Tales from the Crypt and the whole EC world, I think that's what I pulled from maybe one of my earlier inspirations just as a horror fan, even before I watched Nightmare on Elm Street.
Hmm.
That's probably, and certainly watching the movie Creep Show, that is a feeling, that imagery, that aesthetic is definitely something that stuck with me. So I think there's something that I see in Bree's work that touches on that like early Josh horror loving thing, the way that like the work of Clive Barker on
Mm.
film and in books kind of does as well. So thank you for saying that. That's a big compliment for sure.
Awesome.
Um, so Darla does have like a political slant to it, and sometimes that could lead to negative responses from certain toxic people on the internet. So were you
Yes.
concerned with any of that in the creation process? And were there any topics that you thought were too controversial to put in the graphic novel?
Yeah, it went even further in the movie. Like she was nasty. She was like very racist, very nasty to kids, very nasty to very like even more violent, even more scary. I was like, maybe it's a little too, but don't get me wrong. Like I wrote like, Darla, the movie poured out of me when Trump got elected, and there was actually an article about a woman who identified with this new character who was running the country. It more reminded me of what the Dead Zone was, because it was very similar to a Stephen King story about a guy who was angling for the president, who was, for all intents and purposes, like a serial killer.
Right.
And everyone was just like, wow, he's so great. And I combine that kind of that, and that's an unfortunate, sick fact about the country. And and it's like, I hopefully, without like politicizing it too much, we are toxifying ourselves with what we put in our bodies and what we watch on TV. And there's like, this cult of like politicians that people are involved with that are just like, no, trust me, go be violent. And this is the story of like one of the sadder, more unfortunate cases in my mind, with a kind of Stephen King sort of spin to it. And so my hope is that in doing it as a book, it's a little more impactful and yet also a bit more squirmy. And then if there are conversations and, toxicity that pops up, it's like that's what art is. It's like it's gotta drop some discomfort. Boy does she not like end like net out well. This is not about some Captain America type person, but hey, this conversation, it might be very much a prerequisite to what could be a really rude awakening for old Josh Ruben. Because it's a lot, but it's also kind of unfortunately based on real people. A lot of real people I grew up with who again didn't have like the best outcome. So I'm extremely curious how it will net out, and hopefully it won't end me. He's been canceled. He's now a member of the Deplorables Ball. Josh America again.
It'll be all right.
No, it's definitely interesting, and I think there were parts where I think early on, I think I was a little worried about where things could go. Like for instance, on the show a while back, I spoke about the Amazon show, They, and how the main antagonist was essentially like this evil spirit that was racist. And the show made it kind of seem like that particular character or racist spirit caused everyone else to be, you know, evil as opposed to them just being bad people. And it was kind of like excusing their behavior. With Darla, I was concerned about that similar thing happening early on. And as reading through it, though, thankfully that wasn't the case. Just let everybody know that's not the case.
Thank God.
And so my question was, though, was there a conscious effort to make sure that the supernatural elements didn't excuse away, some of the more problematic views and actions of certain characters?
If I'm understanding that question correctly, so can you rephrase it just in regards to the supernatural?
So like, and not to spoil it, but Darla is, she had an accident and she's seeing things. That's, something that's on the Kickstarter. But at the same time, there are things that come up that she's done or may have said or bumped, her interactions with people. And so my concern was her interactions. Was this going to be something where she could potentially blame on the things that she's seeing, or is this is the things that she's seeing is pushing her true colors forward? It's two different things, because in one hand, the character can be like, well, I'm actually a good person. This thing is making me do these things, versus, well, I'm kind of a bad person, but I've kept it, closeted. And now this is kind of showing everybody how I really am, if that makes sense.
She's being exposed. Because if you there, without giving anything away, there is a rekindling with a relative who has pushed her away for a reason, and who has there's a physical expression of that. This like truly like left a scar because of this person. She was never really good. And I'd like to think that the haunting and her ultimate demise is like, well, that's the life lesson and message you leave behind. It's not like an incredibly positive one. Like there was a slightly more kind of heartfelt ending, and it's like, no, let's go for it a little bit, like the ending last couple of pages. But I don't know. I hope that it doesn't net out with too sour of a feeling, and in mouths. It's just like, oh, it just I don't even think I could pick it up again or like kind of revisit it. I hope it leaves things kind of open ended in regards to the supernatural. But she is not. She never started as like a great person. But it's also kind of like, oh man, it's such a sad, unfortunate truth about some of the small town. The existence of small town folks, especially people I went to school with, like in far upstate New York. Mm-hmm. There are people that will never know what walking around a city is like. They only know their bubble. And within the bubble, like bad shit can fester. Bad perspectives can fester. So this is the thing. This is the thing that I really don't know. I really don't know, how it will sort of be perceived, and hopefully people kind of go like, God, is this just like some new evil Bible? Did Josh just inadvertently make it for creepy old women?